Hi there, Tracey LeBeau from In Pure Harmony. What I'm here to talk to you today about is something that can be a little bit scary when we are starting to change our lifestyle habits, but can also be really exciting and rewarding once we dive into making those changes and we start to look at habits that no longer serve us, and we start changing those into routines and habits that do serve us. And that idea is being bad. And what do I mean by being bad? I don't necessarily mean I want you to go rob a bank or beat up your neighbor or anything like that. No, what I really want people to do is start looking at the stories that they've had inside of their consciousness for their entire lives, and also the expectations that we hold to ourselves or that we think that other people hold us to that really don't serve our authentic selves. So what I mean is that if, for example, here's a really simple example actually. When I was younger and I had two small children and I was a stay-at-home mom, my house was always immaculate. No matter when anyone walked in the house, they could eat off the floor. And I never had to worry about my kids being dirty or people's feet getting dirty when they came in or anything being out of place. It was always, everything had to be in its place, cleaned up all the time. And what happened was that I was in a situation later on in life where I did not have the luxury to make sure all of those things were perfect all the time. So went from being a full-time mom to a full-time mom and full-time employee. And what that meant was I was working 40, 50 hours a week, sometimes even more, and still trying to keep up with all of the things that I had previously kept up with. In other words, my house couldn't have anything out of place. All the laundry had to be done. All the dishes always had to be done right away, all the time. Vacuum, swept all the time. Everything had to be neat and just so, because I had in my head that that reflected who I was. And so what I had to learn was that no, it didn't. It reflected the life that I live. And the life that I live in that reality was that I needed just as much to have time for myself and my sanity and with my kids as I did to, or even more, as I did to have to make sure that a dish wasn't out of place or a floor hadn't been swept yet, or there might be dirty laundry. And that took me a while to get used to, and in fact, it's something that I still struggle with now. However, it's something that slowly and gradually turns around, and you start to realize what kind of things are important and why you used to think certain things were important and they're really not. One of the things I use typically if something's really bothering me or I really have this story in my head that things need to be a certain way, I'll use a technique that I actually learned in the business world. If any of you are familiar with Lean or Six Sigma or any type of process improvement, I use the 5 whys. So when I have this story or this expectation in my head that something has to be just so or perfect or a certain way, I start asking myself why. And typically when you get through asking yourself 3 or 4 or 5 whys, you really get to the point of it really doesn't have to be that way. It's because that's what you've told yourself your entire life, the way it needed to be, and that's why you have to have it that way. So what you end up realizing is that once you can get down to the real reason you want something to meet some certain expectations, you find out that it's not as important and you can let it go And you can also let go of the stress that is held, that you hold inside, that builds up when you're not worrying about that specific thing. So that's what I mean by being bad. Being bad meaning all these expectations and of perfection that we hold inside our head really are just in our head. They're not. They're not real. They're not real. They're not. They're not expected by anybody else except us. So when we set those expectations, we set them for other people. We assume other people have these expectations and they don't. So just something to keep in mind next time you are driving yourself crazy to try to get everything done or have something so perfect and that you are all, stressed out and worried and not really enjoying the moment that you could be enjoying with your kids or your family or friends or just relaxing, which is very, very important to our health. So that's my tip for the day, is to try and let go of perfection, even if it's only a little bit at a time, and be bad and have fun. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.